Yeah, this is Ubisoft is hanging by a thread, and now directors are blaming gamers. Why the fuck you blaming us for, huh?
So slow collapse is really teetering on the edge right now. They are hanging by a thread. Their stock prices have collapsed over the last 6 years. They are not hitting their internal targets, and some of their biggest investments like Star Wars Outlaws are underperforming, and their other biggest investments are needing to be delayed, like Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is being delayed because it's unpolished and, from reports, unfinished, missing major
They all are. They just
implementation.
they don't want to risk this one actually tanking again. That all the games that have been coming out are like this. They just actually have to review it now because the investors are up their ass because of their failures. Guaranteed. Guarantee you. Or else they wouldn't give a shit.
Of features, and I personally don't think, from what we've heard, that it will even make its February 14th release date. It's so bad that we've gotten to the point that there is an active conversation happening about the Guillemot family, the original founders, combined with Tencent, buying the company out and taking it private in an attempt to save it. And that would come with a lot of very big changes. Really, the overall image of Ubisoft right now, for a company with 18,000 employees, for one of the biggest video game companies in the world, is one of absolute chaos, a level that is unprecedented. We have situations like the vice president of Rainbow Six, the person in charge for the long-term growth.
You know, I think GameStop still performed better after they did the takeover, after they fucking spiked that shit. They shorted the stock. That's what I was looking for. I'm pretty sure GameStop still did pretty okay after getting fucking shorted and making all their investors lose billions of dollars collectively. Ubisoft is in big trouble. Like big trouble right now. And it's sad. I remember I was obsessed with Siege, all the Assassin's Creeds. Like, I mean, I loved Ubisoft growing up. They made great games. The Watch Dogs were pretty good games. But I mean, now they're just shit, like the rest of the big companies, obviously.
Growth of the brand leaving, with internal communications indicating that they are not looking for a replacement anytime soon, which in other words means they're looking for bigger restructuring, which is why this is not something they want to do, because they're just going to fold it into all of the bigger changes that they need to do. But this also comes with some conflicting reports of things like the Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag remake actually coming out next November, along with a total of 10 Assassin's Creed titles ready to launch in the next 5 years, meaning
guaranteed half are going to be remakes. There's no way. There's no, or like VRs, or there's no way they're all going to be
Ubisoft still is holding on to this idea that what they need is more output, instead of focusing on the very public fact that their development, that their pipeline is suffering tremendously when it comes to quality control and actually putting out good games. It is actually hilarious that they think that they just need more games. That, like, quality is not even a word to them at this point. But there's also reports of Ubisoft aware of the potential buyout, saying that they review every strategic possibility in order to please their stakeholders, and that right now they're laser focused on open.
They review every strategic possibility to please their shareholders. Yeah, so let's lie to their face on report calls. Let's just straight up lie to them. Let's gaslight them and make them believe that we're doing good, right? Let's tell them that fans love our games. So strategic. So funny.
World adventures and games as a service. It's like they keep forgetting that they made this game where this one guy came up to you and was like,
"Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is?"
Yeah.
You can't make this up. And on top of all of this, we have Ubisoft employees, like the viral post from the director of monetization over on LinkedIn, crying about how unfair everything is. So there is a lot to cover.
It's crazy too, because that game was really good. That was a really well-loved game. That was one of the first lines. Well, like, that's pretty much first line of Voss. How ironic.
About what the future of Ubisoft might
Palpatine.
be, about what we can expect from it, and what the possibilities are, as well as me answering that very viral post because it deserves
Palpatine
to be
said that. I think
answered
that
and
was the
called
line.
out for how manipulative it is.
How
It's a pretty big video.
ironic.
And hi, I'm Mug. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. Remember to hit the like button if you enjoy this, if you find it informative, if you find it entertaining, because that helps the channel reach more people, helps it grow. Let's get into all of this. Now, the first thing that I really want to remind you of is that Ubisoft has dug their own grave. They are here in this situation because they deserve it. They've made many mistakes as a company, be that growing way too fast and overestimating how much they could grow, be that how they are a public company and that chase for profit has led them to situations where they continue to implement some of the worst practices in the business.
Like
Single
what?
player battle passes, early
is
access,
that?
manipulative season passes, a terrible
Yep.
subscription service, forcing people to use their own proprietary launcher, their DRM, their always online, their lack of care for game preservation.
I hate the launcher problem with games now. Like, I hate how every single studio has to have their own launcher. You have to have your own login. It's like 17 different things. Oh my god, half time they don't even work. The EA launcher never worked. Half my games don't work. It locked the battlefields for me. Like, what? I have to open the EA launcher every time I want to look at a game, and then I have to wait for all of that. I have to sign into the EA launcher every single time. I have to go through all that bullshit, and then just generally have to play on the EA launcher. Why do no? Either use Steam or get fucked. Keep it digital, or like keep it console. There needs to, if you really want to do all that, there needs to be some company that goes to all of these big companies with launchers and just conglomerates them into one, where you're just like, okay, your launcher's opening, boom, and it's just inside the app. It doesn't open 6 different apps every time. Like, just one app, it opens the launcher, or like it closes the app, it opens the launcher. When you close the launcher, it reopen. Like, I don't know. Somebody needs to do something. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Now somebody needs to do something.
And their overall disregard for just customers in general as they chase more and more monetization schemes. The way that they don't innovate, and a lot of their games feel like they're just reskinning the same basic concepts and expecting people to play it while
They do.
overhyping their games and selling people on hope, and the overall hubris and
Hopium.
mentality that they are
what it
too
is,
big to
hopium.
fail. They are really at this point the perfect example of what not to do. They are a blueprint of how to tank a giant company. And that is why it is so important that we
Indeed.
talk about them, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned here in how to mismanage something and end up
How not to be shit. That's what the lesson is.
in a situation where everybody hates you. So before we jump into what to
Like, how did you mess up a Star Wars game where you should have just been a bounty hunter? Playing with, like, Cad Bane and Boba Fett and fucking Jank, like, do something like that, man. Like, what? Instead of you're playing this stupid person nobody knows about with a stupid lizard that follows her around. Why?
expect from the future of
dumb.
Ubisoft, I want to really address why we need to keep talking about them and why it's good for people to want them to fail, because that is wanting them to change. And for that, I need to address this semi-viral post from the monetization director, which I've censored the name, but this image has been all over the place at this point. Now, this person says, I rarely post on social media, but today I am sad, ashamed, and sad. The gaming industry is rough at the moment, we all know it, but seeing how gamers, in quotation marks, react on social medias, wishing ill fate to companies and people alike, is sad.
I've said it. I'll say it again. And I'll say it 100 times. Game studios who make shit games and do shit practices deserve to fail. They deserve to. Absolutely 100%. You're a piece of shit company. You don't make good games. You deserve to fail. Why would you not? You make a shit product. If I make a fork that every time you go and stick into the food, it bends so you can't stick it into the food, are you going to buy my fork again? No. You're not. What?
And not only towards Ubisoft. Even though it is always the vocal minority that express themselves on social media, I was hurt and ashamed to be a part of this community. which this is really good because it's the first time that we're on the same page with some of these directors, because we are also hurt and ashamed that they are part of this community. Now, this idea that it's a vocal minority is one of the biggest problems within a company like Ubisoft. This mentality that actually most people love us and enjoy our games. They still pay for them and they play them, and a large majority of people don't complain. So obviously the people that do complain are not the minority. Equating this in this way
why was that a cutscene? That's not what Assassin's Creed is, dude. That's like, that never happens in Assassin's Creed. If you go back to the old Assassin's Creed games, the only time something like that were to happen is if it was story situated, where you're like hiding around and you're listening in on the conversation, like
incredibly misguided.
No,
for starters,
Assassin's
that
Creed.
vocal minority is starting to change a lot. Social media keeps growing, and more people tune in to things like these videos. They tune in to news, they tune in to podcasts, and they get a better feeling of things and want to make their voices heard. And if there is, and I believe that this is the case here, a pretty sizable vocal minority, there is probably a silent majority that supports that message. And
that's the problem, is the people who have been burned by this have already been burned by this, and it makes, and especially the people who don't do their research into these games, the companies, the practices, whatever, and then they just get hurt by them, and they get, bummed out by games or whatever. These people just stop playing games. It's not, a lot of the time, it's not that they just stop buying from the company. They stopped playing games. And I've seen, like, with a lot of my personal friends, and, you can kind of just tell. Once people get bored of games and they're like, oh, I buy a game, it's not fun, or, it's only fun for a day, whatever. They just get bored. They're like, why would I do that when I could just go do other things? One of my personal buddies, he's basically my stepbrother, not really, but basically, he does not play games anymore. He's literally completely done with playing games, 100%. He will not play them. He just doesn't, because no games are fun to him anymore. Literally, he stopped playing it. He used to play games with me all the fucking time, but games aren't fun to him at all whatsoever anymore, so he just stopped playing them. So it's a perfect example, and I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other just normal people who get tired of games, they stop playing games, and then they go off and they just spend more time at work, or, fix a fucking car or some shit, right? Like, these directors and developers need to understand that gamers just want to play fun games, and they don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you. They don't care how hard you work or whatever. All they think is, oh, you sit at a desk and and then you make a game. That's all they know. They don't care. Make a game and make it good. Don't fucking complain. Like, it makes it worse.
Probably it's growing to be similar to the size of people that just buy the games and don't think about it. But he continues, what is even more revolting is coming on LinkedIn and seeing the same comments from people within the industry. I'm going to talk about that. On top of exposing yourself as a clearly non-decent human being, you are affecting thousands of employees that are already impacted by all the hate despite doing their best to deliver incredible experiences.
Boo hoo. Cry about it. We're affecting you because we're saying your games are shit and we want your company to fail. Wow. Sucks to suck. Make a better game.
And there is a lot going on in this little blurb that is highly manipulative and that really deserves to be called out.
Like,
so let's go in order.
What?
The fact that there are people within the industry that are celebrating the failure of a company like Ubisoft should be very telling. There are a lot of people within the industry that are very unhappy with how things are going, with what practices are being implemented in workplaces, in how employees are treated, in how departments are divvied up, in how the directions for games are decided, and in the work that they have to do. a lot of people want video games to be different, including people who work on them and have been
Yeah.
forced into a lot of different corporate structures that they never wanted to, and that place a lot of
Yeah.
limitations onto them. And
That's true. A lot of the time, it's not the developer's entire fault with some of the failures. Like, developers don't always make a game and go, oh, let's make this because it'll make us more money. People aren't gonna like it or aren't gonna dislike it that much. It's not gonna make people hate us that much, so we'll make more money, so it's fine. They don't always do that. They just go, oh, most of the time, I think they go, let's make a good game. This seems cool. It might be a cool concept, and then it just ends up failing. But there needs to be more forethought into these, and not just, oh, cool concept. No, these are games, and it needs to be fun in a gaming sense. A lot of the time, there's also not testing. At least enough testing. So many games that it's just like, this is either not fun to play, I don't know how nobody tested this and went, this is stupid, or it's buggy to fuck. You're like, how did somebody play this and not find all these bugs? Right? So, I don't know. There's a lot of problems.
I receive DMs and emails from developers from many different places telling me that they are sick and tired, that what I'm saying doesn't even scratch the surface, that we have no idea just how out of touch directors are, how little they understand of the work that actually goes into making a video game, and how the things that they demand be put in it actively harm a game and stifle creativity and lead to terrible working conditions, all conducted by madmen. The people that are with...
I can completely see that. So I was working at a company. I'm not going to say the company. They forced us, specifically me, because I was in a different section than most other people. They forced me to use an inferior product. Right. Worse work conditions, obviously, because I had to spend more time doing the product, whatever. They forced me into a worse position, using a worse product, making a worse product. Oh, and then, by the way, I ended up losing my job because I was making a bad product. Because of the things that they were doing that was put from top down. So the boss came in and went, oh, you have to use this product. And I fought back and said, if I use this product, it's going to be shit, whatever. They forced me to use it. I lost my job because I made a shit product. Because nobody wanted to buy the lights anymore. And that was it. They, like, I couldn't do anything about it. So I can completely see people from the top going, oh yeah, you have to do this because of this reason, and they go, well, that's gonna make the game worse, I don't want to do that. And they go, I don't give a fuck, do it. I could completely see that 100%.
Within the industry celebrating this failure is because they believe it's going to lead to a better tomorrow, to better games in the future, and to better things for people making them. But what really pisses me off is the idea that he says that all of this negativity is directly affecting thousands of employees that are impacted by this, and kind of implying that these people who are going to lose their jobs in many cases are all victims, and that people are mean and evil and have no empathy. And the reality of this could not be farther from the truth. Sure, there are probably some people who want everybody to lose their jobs. There's people out there saying horrible things, but that's just true about everything all of the time. Most people that are celebrating the downfall of Ubisoft are doing so because they're fed up. They're tired. They've grown to hate this company for the way that they treat their IP, the things that they would love to see, for how they continue to gaslight them to try and take their money in exchange for subpar products. They want to see better and they want to receive better as customers, and all they see is that it keeps getting worse and worse, and they just want that to change. Just because most people don't put a qualifying statement of, I feel bad for the people who don't deserve to lose their jobs that are going to lose it in this process, doesn't mean they don't have empathy towards that. It's very simply that sometimes people just don't add the qualifying statements when they just say stuff on Twitter.
Like, I don't want everybody to lose their job if you love making games. Well, and also that's the thing too, is the developers who genuinely love making games and make good games and do good work, they're gonna find another job. If this company gets completely shut down, they could easily transition into another job. And they get more leeway in transitioning into other jobs because it's not like they even got fired or let go or laid off, whatever the case is the company got shut down. The company got dissolved, so they have to find other work. So they have way more leniency than just, oh, you got fired from your last job. It looks way better on you. It's like, oh, you fought it out till the end, whatever, right? So the people who love making games and doing good, a lot of the time they're going to be fine. But the pieces of shit who don't care and just treat it as a 9 to 5, yeah, good. You deserve to lose your job. You're a piece of shit. You don't make good games. You just, that's how it is. Simple as that. You suck. You don't make good games. Piece of shit games. Boom, done. Easy. That's all it is.
Human beings have empathy for people who have drive and passion, unfortunately losing their jobs. But when looking at the big picture, this is a good thing, and you can't try and convince me that, oh, woe is you, this is actually so bad. Oh, how could it be that a company does a subpar job for 10 years and they reap the consequences, and we're supposed to think, oh no, the best way that this world would work would be if they continue to make subpar products and somehow get rewarded for it.
Again, those people who are at companies for 10 years, their company gets dissolved or whatever, they're going to be fine. We don't need to worry about them. They're going to be perfectly fine. There's no need to worry. Whatever. It's fine. However, the people who are shit, they deserve to lose their job. If you suck, if you don't care, we don't care. Goodbye. Simple it is. It's as simple as it is. That's all it is. If you suck, if you don't want to make games that are good, if you don't care, we don't care. We don't want you around. See you later. Sayonara.
And there's two layers of manipulation going on here. Not only are gamers mean and evil and have no empathy, not only are we non-decent human beings, but it also implies that everybody at Ubisoft is amazing. Obviously, this company is failing because there's a lot of out-of-touch directors, a lot of corporate bureaucracy, a lot of terrible management structures that lead to projects failing and underperforming and all of these negative things. There are people there who do not deserve the positions they have. There are probably, like in any other company, seat warmers. There's people that exist to fill in at the table. Ubisoft is basically the poster child for corporate bloat at this point. And in this little manipulative blurb, it's painting it out as if it's not their fault that people are going to lose their jobs. And that they, most of them, people like the man posting this, are going to walk away unscathed. And they have the audacity to post this and use their employees and their very real tragedy, their very real job losses as a shield. So here's a very real question. Where is the empathy from Ubisoft and all of the...
That's also, yeah, it's funny because he's a fucking director. You're gonna get another job instantly, man. You're a director. What are you talking about? Huh? What are you talking about? You're a director.
Terrible decisions that they've made towards their employees. If you cared about them, you would have done everything to avoid this sort of situation. You can't just claim from a director's perspective that this has nothing to do with me. There are tons of people that very probably joined Ubisoft bright-eyed and naive, wishing that they could work on Splinter Cell, or on Rayman 4, or on Beyond Good and Evil 2, or on some new cool project. And instead, were met with a corporate stonewall of no, shut up and do your job. And that kept their heads low, holding on to their passion for video games. And now, because of the decisions that people at the top have made, are going to lose their jobs. I have empathy for them, but I do not have empathy for the people at the top, and I do not have empathy for the company itself failing, because these sorts of things need to be weeded out of the industry. But of course, we have just a little bit left of this post, as he says, how can you wish a company to fail simply because they do not cater to you, or that the product does not please you is beyond me. And this is just a tone-deaf...
That's real? Wait, that's a...
Catered...
How can you wish a company to fail simply because they do not cater to you, or that the product does not please you, is beyond me. What?
To you, or that the product does not please you, is beyond me. And this is just a tone-deaf, completely out-of-touch statement. How can people wish for a company that makes products in exchange for money, and that those products are subpar, that they don't please them, and they do this repeatedly for over 10 years, and they think that this needs a change? Wow, man. It almost feels like you're angry that people are using their brains. But the real kicker is the ending here of we are all on the same boat. Please, please, please stop spreading hate. We should all uplift each other instead of bringing each other down. And what Sabrina Carpenter over here doesn't understand is that they are not on the same boat. A monetization director is not on the same boat as the employees at the lower levels that are...
This is literally like... This is literally like if the IRS tried to guilt trip you into paying more taxes. Oh, you know, people should pay 10% more taxes because we need the money, or else, you know, we're not gonna have cold air in the What? You're a monetization director. You're literally the biggest cancer of the gaming company. Your whole job is to milk players of money. Better yet, not the IRS. A gambling manager. This is like a gambling, a casino owner. This is a casino owner trying to guilt trip you into coming into their casino and spending a ton of money because their casino is going to shut down. Seriously. Are you joking? You're retarded. You're straight up retarded.
Are actually suffering
This
this.
person's retarded.
A monetization
Whoever
director
posted that.
is not on the same boat as gamers. I've dug around a lot on this, and a part of me still wishes for me to be wrong and for this to be a hoax, and this isn't real, because it's just so sad. Video games are an incredibly beautiful combination of technology, business, and art and creativity. And one of the coolest parts about video games is that the line of communication has always been very clear. If they make a great game that we want to play, we will happily pay for it and play it. We will be so excited to do that. And at some point in the last 6 or 7 years, that communication has been broken. And a lot of companies in the chase for profit have forgotten that the profit comes when you make things that people want to buy. And the way that we get back on track, the way that we focus back on what matters, is by making our voices heard. And of course, in that, there's gonna be some not so nice voices, but we cannot let these people try and gaslight us. We can't let them pretend that everybody who wants video games to get better are evil, non-decent human beings. Sorry, I'm really angry at this post, but let's talk about the future. What could happen to Ubisoft?
There's no way.
Well, there's many different ways.
A person like that's actually real, where they think that the gamers who want shit companies to fail, excuse me, are the problem. And specifically, a gaming monetization director thinks that the community is shit because they want bad games to fail. That's gold. That's hilarious. That's so perfect. I love that.
That all of this could go down.
It's good.
And this is really interesting because I think Tencent, for those of you who know it, being a Chinese mega corporation, a multinational conglomerate, and a holding company that has a lot of investments all across video games, basically has a hand in every single pie. And listen, there's no real good way of sugarcoating this, so here we go. Tencent is linked to a lot of human rights violations. It's linked to some shady business practices, a lot of bad stuff regarding privacy, and especially within China, they are very negatively regarded since they have control of like way too much. And when I say that they have fingers in a lot of pies, I really do mean that. These guys have like 14% of From Software, 35% of Shift Up, including Stellar Blade, 5% in Game Science recently for Black Myth Wukong, 25% in Larian for Baldur's Gate 3. They invest wherever they smell money. And these guys are accumulating power like crazy. But this is where
That's
it gets
crazy.
really complicated. Ubisoft needs to change. They are so deep in the hole that there is no other option. It's either a hostile takeover or somebody buys it and takes it private. So really the only sliver of hope here is that somehow buying them out from the Guillemot family plus Tencent would allow some sort of split where the Guillemot family can keep a lot of the important stuff regarding Ubisoft in check, and ideally Tencent comes in from a business perspective, not to implement or to work with a lot of the terrible things we associate with them, but instead to just restructure and give that outside perspective that Ubisoft desperately needs. They can't be allowed to continue with, we conducted
really
an
can't.
internal investigation and found out that there was no wrongdoing from our part. There needs to be a dramatic change, because that is just how deeply this company is hurt at the moment, beyond recovery. And if they don't go private with something like Tencent plus the Guillemot family, or ideally the Guillemot family plus someone else, I guess, choosing between lesser evils at that point, I say, as if the Guillemot family has proven to not be an evil. But if it isn't that, it's just going to be a hostile takeover or the vultures circling above. And it reminds me a lot of the situation with Embracer Group in 2001, where people were naively very happy that Embracer was buying things up, like all of the Crystal Dynamics IP, like Tomb Raider and Deus Ex and Soul Reaver. People thought that they were going to bring back Legacy of Kain, and look how Embracer turned out, which, by the way, didn't hear any of those naive journalists celebrating Embracer come back years later to say, ooh, we were wrong. Accountability really is dead. And at this point, I don't know what's worse, if all of the IP being stripped away and sold off and just being treated like that, like they're being picked up by vultures, or having a gigantic mega corporation that kind of really does personify the idea of an evil megacorp coming in to take care of Ubisoft and its IP. The truth is, though, that Ubisoft is in such a dire state that it's kind of difficult to imagine anything really being worse beyond it disappearing. Like, it really is a question of if the juice is worth the squeeze, but at this point with Ubisoft, like, there is no juice left. They would need to build up again in order to squeeze them dry again. Do not forget that we live in the reality where Sam Fisher was relegated as a gacha drop in a tactical mobile game. Which, that isn't me being hopeful, but it is me reminding you that there is somewhere a chance that Ubisoft does come back from this, that the restructuring happens, that within those 30 to 40% layoffs at the company, they get rid of the bloat, they focus on now instead of their 10-year plan or whatever, and they start pumping out good games, that at some point they realize once again that making good games leads to sales. And I care deeply about this, not just because of the IP that Ubisoft has abandoned, which is the first thing I would do, is I go into the vault of IP and find passionate people who want to work on them and be like, hey, here's Splinter Cell, have some fun, team. But because I really don't want AAA to die. I know that some people really want AAA to crash and burn, and that's not what I want. I think there's a very healthy division to be found within video games right now, within the indie scene, the AA scene, and the AAA. And for all of the incredible output that indies and AAs do of innovation, of passion, of games that remind us why we love games, AAA still has a place, because these gigantic companies with their just unfathomable resources, they have so much money, so much talent in them that goes just not used. They have the ability to acquire more talent, to go out there and really offer competitive salaries and good conditions for the best of the best to work on great games. And they have the resources, the money, the technology to really push video games forward in a way that nobody else can even imagine. And instead of doing that, instead of continuing to be at the forefront of innovation and making games that we love playing that nobody else can make, they are all obsessed with chasing the most amount of money, competing for the same live service pie in the middle, like it's some twisted version of the Hunger Games. And it turns out that the ones who suffer from that is us. I want AAA to realize that there is such a huge market out there for them to just make good games if they just listen to customers. If Ubisoft in some capacity is going to be a wake-up call for everyone.
They don't listen to customers, and then they force an agenda on the customers and then claim that that's what they actually wanted. that was the agenda they were trying to push, or that was the goal they were trying to accomplish, or whatever. And the whole thing is so stupid, man. So
everybody,
stupid.
and even more in a very twisted, potentially impossible reality. Ubisoft were able to make a comeback under new leadership, under whatever the circumstances may be, to come out and prove that they're back stronger by listening to customers, by bringing back the things that we want, and to find success. It would just be this glowing example that we could point at anytime one of the other big developers out there, big publishers, does something stupid. That would be great for us. Is it just like basically impossible? Yes. But I still believe in that dream. I still believe that the role of AAA in video games is to do the things that nobody else has the resources to do. So I know that a lot of you guys want them to fail, but I don't. I want them to change. I want them to wake up and give us what we deserve, to reestablish that beautiful line.
I don't think they ever will, and that's the problem, is they have to fail and they have to have consequences, and the consequences that they make shit games, so you fail. Your game failed, so you fail. And even if it's not, you know, it doesn't have to be every time. It doesn't have to be, oh, if you know, X company releases X amount of games and they're all trash, you know, whatever. But it
of communication
kind of lost my
and give us what we deserve, to reestablish that beautiful line.
yeah, right. Wanting to fail. Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, they do need to fail. It's a part of it. They need the consequences, and they're not going to change. I feel they're not going to change unless they have consequences, because why would they? Right? You know, they're not just going to, okay, yeah, sure, we're doing wrong. You know, we made, you know, a couple extra $1 million on a game from doing some shady shit one time. So we'll give it up, or, you know, collectively they made probably billions, but, you know, whatever. We'll give it up. No, they're not going to do that. They need consequences, and they need to fail.
Line of communication between us, the customers, and them.
Getting super
the
fucking tired. I'm
visionaries
gonna go to bed
creating
after this.
great things that we
Like
could have
passing out
never
shit.
imagined, but that we fall in love with. Will it ever happen? I don't know, but I'd like to believe that it's possible. And sure, some of you might call me naive, but I never thought Embracer was going to do anything good, so I guess I'm not that naive. I've been Mug, and I hope that this has clarified a lot of the situation, the things that could happen, and where Ubisoft is, because this is a really big deal. Like I said, it's kind of a blueprint for how failure can happen to these big companies and what mistakes to avoid. And if you did enjoy the video, leave a like. That helps the video reach more people. That helps the channel grow. We are almost at 50,000 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy, but it makes me very happy. Thank you all so much for your support.
50,000,
as well as thanking the members of the $1
job.
patron wall, which are up there because they support me at the $1 tier, the only tier there is. But their support is very important, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. And if you want to join, the link is in the description below. And as always, go out there, enjoy some good video games, have a good time, because there's a ton of great video games despite all of this drama. Never forget that. And I'll see you again very soon.
Cool, good video. Yeah, that was there by Mug Thief. Great video. Ubisoft is hanging on by a thread. They're trying to blame gamers. They think they're above this shit. You need to stop doing that, man. Stop trying to blame gamers for your mistakes and for fucking up as a company. Okay, we're only gonna play good games. We're only gonna there's millions and millions of games out there by this point.